38 weeks to go, gonna rule this game. I'm the boss, yeah, I'll take fame with my fantasy team. Gonna rise to the top, no one can stop me. Gonna make them drop.
Hello everybody and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. Gameweek 10 is done and now we have 28 weeks left to go. How was the game week for you? Did you captain Haaland? If you did, I know you struggled quite a bit. It really was a tough day at the office. Things didn't quite go as expected, and I guess that's the life of a manager. I mean, Bournemouth beating Man City 2-1, Arsenal losing to Newcastle, Aston Villa being hammered by the Spurs, Chelsea doing nothing against Manchester United, none of the big teams keeping a clean sheet, Southampton keeping a clean sheet, Newcastle keeping a clean sheet against Arsenal, selling Solanke and then him showing up. It was quite frustrating. That's why we love fantasy, right? The biggest disappointment of the weekend is easily Manchester City 1, Bournemouth 2. Manchester City did not even register their first shot on target until the 80th minute. Over 5 million of us had captained Haaland. So watching him blank for the fourth time in 5 game weeks must have been so painful. I finally escaped this trap by captaining Salah, and I'm really happy with how that went. It's not to say I've lost faith in Haaland's scoring ability, it's just he will score, just not when we want him to score. For me, the main reason Manchester City lost was the man they call Kyle Walker. He was exposed. I'm not sure if he's not fit or if we're actually finally witnessing the tail end of his career. Like maybe he can't perform at this top level anymore. But that still may be too soon to say, but he was outmuscled for the first goal by Semenyo. He could have done better for the second goal. Bournemouth had never beaten Manchester City before this game, so this is a great win for them because when they looked at the schedule of the season, I'm sure most of them had already ruled this one off. So this is a bonus 3 points. Semenyo and Evan Nilsson scored the goals off lovely assists by Kirkes. He was immense. He was really good at the back and clearly he was great going forward. These are the kind of defenders we all need because banking on those, except if it's Vardiol, unless it's Vardiol who scored for Man City, apart from Vardiol, it's not looking like it's worth it to have an expensive defender. So if you're one of those guys who has Trent, and maybe the Arsenal ones who, Arsenal haven't even kept a clean sheet since game week 4. But anyway, Semenyo and Evan Nilsson scored off assists from Kirkes. Gundogan had the assist for the Vardiol goal. Semenyo had the 3 bonus points, Kirkes had 2, and Evan Nilsson had 1. Another disappointing matchup was Arsenal 0, Newcastle 1. At this point, Arsenal have sort of solidified their reputation as this strong, powerful team, but they've been stumbling over the last 3 weeks. They pride themselves on their defense, and from game week 4 they have not kept a clean sheet. Last time out, when they played Newcastle at Newcastle, they lost 1-0 again. That one was a bit controversial, but this time, not so much. Isak scored from a lovely cross from Gordon, and that was it. Newcastle just seemed to be too big, and Arsenal never really threatened. All of their best chances fell to Declan Rice. So many of us, after him performing against Liverpool, thought we must bring him in because now if he could score against Liverpool, he's definitely going to do the business against Newcastle. And we were wrong. Like I said, the assist was from Gordon to Isak. Isak got the 3 bonus points, Hall had 2, and Livramento had 1. Just goes to show how much importance the wing backs played for Newcastle in this encounter. The highest scoring game of the weekend was Spurs 4, Aston Villa 1. Aston Villa scored first, and I thought, okay, it seems like they're going to go. If you remember last week, I said that Spurs looked like they did not know what to do without Son. Son played this game. He started. He didn't play the whole game, but he started, and it was enough. Solanke scored a goal, or rather Solanke scored 2 goals. Johnson scored 1, and Maddison wrapped up the game. Solanke had an assist because he was taken down for the free kick from Maddison. Kulusevski had the assist for Solanke, Richarlison the other one, and Son had an assist for Brennan Johnson, who finally rewarded us for our patience. Morgan Rogers is the man who opened the scoring for Aston Villa. Solanke got the 3 bonus points, Morgan Rogers got 2, and Johnson got 1. From a fantasy perspective, it really seemed like it might not be a good idea to cling on to having Pedro Porro or Romero or Udogie. It's not worth it anymore, especially if they're cheaper defenders like Ola Aina. The marquee game of the weekend. So Manchester United take on Chelsea. Now, in the previous podcast, I joked about El Sakiko and how I would wait for the international break to sack Ten Hag and then have the manager take over after the international break. It seems like people were listening. Never felt so wise before. That's exactly what happened. I thought he'd be sacked after the Chelsea game, but he was sacked much earlier, and they decided to give Ruud a run. If you don't know, Manchester United have appointed Ruben Amorim, who will take over after the break. So Ruud will take over. He took over for the Leicester game in the midweek in the cup, where they won 5-2. They drew 1-1 this week, and he will take over this weekend as well. The game was 1-1. Bruno Fernandes scored a penalty when Haaland was taken down. Caicedo scored a lovely volley off some corner confusion, and it was 1-1. The only thing of note to say in this game is that they should have probably sent off Martinez when he took off, or rather when he took a wild challenge on Palmer with a knock above the knee. I don't know how he only got a yellow card. I'm sure Arsenal fans are seething at the double standards shown. So it was a blank for Palmer again, and it's tough now. Haaland blanking, this man Palmer blanking, Saka blanking. Only Salah delivered, so it was a tough one. You can see now why the game week average was 39. Bruno Fernandes got 3 bonus points, Caicedo got 2, and Palmer got 1. Now, it's funny, I guess, when you watch the game, it just feels like they just had to give people bonuses. To my eye, I don't even know why Palmer got a bonus, or Fernandes as well, because he keeps creating, they keep wasting. I guess scoring a penalty is worth 3, I don't know. It was a very dull game from my perspective. Starting with the back, let's look at the top performers of Game Week 10. Ramsdale was a top performing goalkeeper. He had 9 points. He kept a clean sheet. Sells from Nottingham Forest had 6 points. Hope had 5. Flecken had 4. And at number 5, it was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way tie between Raya, Travers, Verbruggen, Sanchez and Kelleher. When it comes to defenders, Ola Aina was a top performing defender with 15 points. Number 2 is Kakis from Bournemouth with 10 points, tied with Leif Davis from Ipswich. Number 4 and 5 sees Alex Moreno and Walker Peters with 9. When it comes to midfielders, Wilson from Fulham is a top performing midfielder with 13 points after his late heroics. Semenyo, Fernandes, Hudson-Odoi and Gomez are tied for, second to 5th with 10 points apiece. When it comes to forwards, the top performing forward is Solanke with 16 points, which makes him our top performer of the week. He is number 1. Number 2 is a 2-way tie between Gakpo and Isak. Number 3 is Strand Larsen, and number 4, 5, 6 is a 3-way tie between Evanilson, Wood and Armstrong. Let's go over some stats. Bournemouth had never gotten a point against City. These were their first 3 points against Manchester City. City's unbeaten run has finally come to an end. It was 32 games. It's back to 0. Arsenal's 49 unbeaten remains safe. With the victory over City, Bournemouth have now won 3 home games in a row. Vardiol has now scored 6 goals in City's last 8 away games. So if it's an away game, you're better off putting Guardiola as your captain than Haaland at this rate. City and Leicester continue to be the only teams that have scored in every game this season. In case you're wondering how long 32 games is, do the math for you. It is 11 months. Slot, manager of Liverpool, has had the best start of any Liverpool manager over their first 10 games. In their last 4 visits to Anfield, Brighton scored first, and out of all those games, they only won 1. Salah is now 8th. He overtook Robbie Fowler to become the 8th top goal scorer in Premier League history. He now has 164 goals. Next is Thierry Henry. He has 11 goals to go to catch up with him. Thierry Henry is on 175 goals. Isak has now scored in 3 games in a row. Arsenal have now played Newcastle twice at St. James's Park and have lost twice, 1-0. Wood has now scored in 4 consecutive games. Nottingham Forest have won 3 games in a row, first time since the late 90s. Everton's 5-match unbeaten run has now come to an end. Southampton finally have their first win of the season, and surprisingly it comes before Ipswich's first win of the season. Wolves have now scored 8,000 goals in their football club history. Ipswich continue the worst ever start to an EPL season. No win in 10 games. Tottenham were down 1-0 against Aston Villa. They came back to win 4-1. Now, in the year 2024, Tottenham have come back from being a goal down to gain points 24 times in this calendar year of 2024. Tottenham have scored 15 goals in 5 home games this season. I guess this means they're a better team at home than away. Brian Mbeumo has netted 8 Premier League goals this season from an XG of just 3.79. It is the biggest XG over performance in the competition so far. Liverpool's win over Brighton on Saturday was their 100th time they've come from behind to win a Premier League game. They're the 3rd team to do this after Tottenham and Manchester United. With just 12 points won, this is Manchester United's worst return after 10 games in a league campaign since 1986 and 87. None of the last 5 managers taking charge of their first Premier League away game at Old Trafford have lost. Iraola, Postecoglou, Kompany, Slot, and Maresca. This is the longest unbeaten run at Old Trafford for new managers. Since the start of last season, Spurs have won 10 Premier League matches in which they have conceded the first goal, the joint most of any team, along with Manchester City. They have won 3 of their last 4 after going down 1-0. Dominic Solanke scored 2 goals the other day against Aston Villa. He has scored more Premier League goals against Unai Emery than any other player. Spurs have conceded the opening goal of a Premier League home game on 12 occasions in 2024. It is the most of any team this year. With Arsenal losing to Newcastle and City losing to Bournemouth, this is only the 3rd time since 2017-18 that both of the previous seasons' top 2 have lost on the same day. The last time that happened was 7th March 2021 and 14th January 2023. It's very rare. João Gomes from Wolves has both made the most tackles, 103, and considered the most fouls, 54. I guess you just have to try. As we all know, Amorim is taking over from Erik ten Hag. But a funny stat is that in all competitions during his top-flight managerial career, Amorim has only faced 3 managers more than once and lost every game. And one of those managers he hasn't beaten is Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag lost 10 games by a margin of 3+ goals in all competitions, twice as many as they suffered under any other manager after Sir Alex. As we all know, Rodri won Ballon d'Or. Vinicius fans are upset. But one thing that was interesting is that Emiliano Martinez is the first goalkeeper to win the Yashin Trophy more than once. Speaking of Rodri, congratulations to you, sir. Rodri has only lost 1 of his last 85 games for club and country, with that defeat coming at Erik ten Hag's Manchester United in the FA Cup final. How random is that? Rodri had the most touches per game last season in all competitions with 120.3. Rodri is the fourth non-English player to win the Ballon d'Or while playing for an English club. Dennis Law, George Best, Cristiano Ronaldo are the others. This season, only Ipswich Town have been in the lead for less time than Manchester United. 7 of Eric Ten Hag's Premier League defeats came via the 90th minute winner. The highest percentage of defeats to 90th minute goals of any other manager to lose 20 plus games in the Premier League history. So Fudgy time really worked against him. Coming into the game week, we saw Mbeumo being the most brought in player with 685,000 managers bringing him in. Number 2 was Ait Nouri, 606,000. Wood, 437,000. Saka, 411,000. Salah saw 367,000 managers bring him in. For this coming game week, Wood is a top player brought in with 287,000 bringing him in, while the Aina has been brought in by 206,000. Mo Salah has been brought in by 202,000. Solanke has been brought in by 157,000. Mbeumo by 140,000. Top players out, it wouldn't surprise you. Haaland, 240,000. Luis Diaz, who came on from the bench again, 200,000 have removed him. Van de Ven, who's injured, 138,000 have removed him. Watkins, 137 have removed him. Eze, 110,000 have removed him. The most selected player was Haaland. The most captained player was Haaland. The most vice-captained player was Palmer. The highest points this week was 111. The average points was 39 points. In our group, Oti Omondi, manager of Odu, was the top performing manager this week with 93 points. Well done to you, sir. Number 2 was Tommy Oladipo, promotion preferred. He had 68, so you can see that gap is huge. Number 3 was Loki's Juggernaut, managed by Edmond Gadumbi. Number 4 was Ali Mudid, 65, and number 5 was Amos Langat, manager of Playboy Fatty, who tied with Real Warriors, managed by Dennis Alubiri. Let me read you his team. So our leader had Raya in goal. He had Pedro Porro, who gave him 1 point. Raya gave him 3 points. Aina gave him 15 points. He had Vardio, who gave him 7. He had Morgan Rogers, who gave him 9. He had Johnson, who gave him 8. Mo Salah, who gave him 18. Palmer, who gave him 3. Wood, who gave him 7. Cunha, who had 6. And Solanke, who gave him 16. On the bench, he had 10 points from Semenyo. So he really seems to have had a good team for the week. Of course, as you can imagine, with 93 points, he, in our group, jumped the global ranking the most. He jumped by 2.3 million positions. Mr. Omondi rose 40 ranks. Well done to you, sir. Dennis Cohn is the manager in our group who made the most transfers. He made 10 transfers, losing 28 points, and he only got 38 points. In number 2 is our last position, Mr. Don Clinton, who lost 20 points, and he gained 36 only. Dennis Cohn continues sliding down the table. He has 432 points, so it seems like he was playing well before he got trigger happy. Don Clinton, on the other hand, is firmly rooted at the bottom with 185 points. In terms of pain, manager John Mongemi must be hurting right now. He had the most points lost on the bench, 27 to be precise. He had Rogers and Solanke, 16 and 9. When I look at his team, I don't understand why he didn't have them starting. He got 31 points and he had 27, 25 on the bench. That's painful. Number 2 was Ramon Pauls, who had 25 on the bench. Manager of Hakuna Mchezo Round He. I guess that's why. Sachivini lost 21 points on the bench. Madagani Kihoro lost 20 points on the bench. And rounding up the top 5 was Arnold Midunga, who had 17 on the bench. And it's quite interesting because Arnold, Franklin Asiema, Alan Muchangi, Khalid Mohammed, Sam Loud, David Bogwa, Derek Mwangi, and Nikola Mislenovic all had 17 points on the bench. In terms of disappointing transfer outcomes, manager Davis Otara leads the way. He made 2 transfers, and the people he removed got 21 points, and the people he brought in did nothing. Neville Jabali, 19 points. Mood Akil Hazmi, 15. Chris Masika, 13. Victor Nell, 12. Those are the points they would have gained had they just left their team as it was last week. This shouldn't come as any surprise to anybody who's been listening to this podcast for a while, but manager Don Clinton is a manager who has accumulated the most red arrows. This is the 9th week in a row that it has just been red. Number 2 is Duncan Anzigare, 8 weeks. TK, manager of Surrey, 7 weeks. Nelson Muyodi, 7 weeks. Gift Omlangi, 6 weeks. Watch out, guys. Pull up your socks. Andy Joroge, who we have mentioned in various ways, was the manager to decrease most in overall global rank. He dropped by 1.28 million positions. And usually that also means he dropped down our table. He dropped by 40 positions. We managed to get 26 points this week. This week, our lowest team comes from, or rather, our team with the lowest points comes from Real Vicenza. We've spoken about this team in the past, but what I'm noticing by looking at this team is that this team has been set and left. Because let me read you out the players. Martinez in goal, considered 4, he has 0. Van de Ven injured, 0. Fofana, 2. Saliba, 2. Savi didn't play, 0. KDB was his captain, 0. Kulusevski, Garnacho, he has Odegaard. When did Odegaard go down? He's had Odegaard all this time. Haaland, vice captain, so he got 4. Havertz is his other player. And then on the bench, he has Foster, Tuanzebe, Mbabu, and Ladapo. Of course, I wouldn't blame if you haven't had of the other 2. So this is our set and leave manager. But from a manager who's actually trying, our lowest was, what's he called? Classic 11, 49 Invincibles. He had 21 points. And his team is playing. He had Raya, who had 3, Diego Carlos, who had 0, Gabriel, who had 2, Alexander Arnold, 2, Romero, 1, Tavernier, 2. Then he had Martinelli, 2, Bailey, 1, Calvert-Lewin, 2, Delap, 2, Haaland, 4 as his captain. Yep, that's more reasonable. It wouldn't surprise you if I told you that the team with the most goal scorers falls to our points tally leader, Mr. Otio Mondi. He had 9 different players scoring. Manager Tommy Oladipo of Promotion Preferred has been on the rise, and he has been having green arrows for 6 weeks in a row. Well done. Manager Marvin Owele made very shrewd transfers, and those gained him 23 points, which saw him get 60 points. Well done to you, sir, manager of M Culture FC. In terms of captain choices, the most popular captain in our group was Haaland, captained by 142 people. Well done. Last week it was like 178, so we are doing better. Number 2 was Salah, with 50 people captaining him. Well done. We got our returns. I'm one of those 50. Number 3 was Palmer, with 19 people captaining him, hoping that he would return like he did last time against Man U. Ole Sana, it didn't go your way this time round. 7 people captained Saka. It was a brave decision. If they work out, sorry. 5 people captained Mbomo. Sorry as well. 3 people captained Havertz. 2 people captained Watkins. 1 person captained Isak. Well done, Freddie Faris. 1 person captained Haaland. 1 person captained De Bruyne. 1 person captained Luis Diaz. Sorry. 1 person captained Vardy. That was a gamble. LED captained Raul. Don Clinton captain Nicholas Jackson. That was a gamble. Wissa was captained by Pius Ochieng, and Vinny McCory made the best decision to captain Solanke. Well done to you, sir. Anonde Dunga has somehow climbed to his position at the top. He has 647 points. He got 43 points. However, number 2, the Walker Dead, has 641 points. They got 63. Lawyer Malik has 640 points, tied with Franklin Asiema and Bode Blachowicz, who has 640. So between number 1 and number 5, it is 7 points only. Number 6 has 630 points. Number 7, 629. Number 8, 627. Number 9, 625. And number 10 and 11 are tied with 624. So between number 1 and number 10 is just 23 points. It's getting tight. Between number 1 and number 20 is only 40 points. And that's just a game week or 2 away. Looking at the new game week 11, 2 things. 1, Champions League is going to be in between now and the game week. So it is possible that injuries will happen. So delay it as much as possible before you make your changes. I know people are worried about price changes, but if you can wait because of possible injuries, that might be the wiser thing to do. Also note that the delayed savings really did happen, and the games are now an hour later, depending on where you are listening to this from. So, the first game will be Brentford versus Bournemouth. I just watched Brentford collapse in the last minute of it. Well, not last, but in the 90th minute. 90 plus 2, 90 plus 6, Harry Wilson just destroyed them. I was really banking on a clean sheet, and I was so happy. And I'm sure for those of you who had Flecken, you were so happy as well. So they will be pissed. They will be looking to revenge. Now, their opponents are Bournemouth. Bournemouth just beat City. They beat Arsenal. I think they drew with Villa. They are on a roll. They are giant killers. So maybe since Brentford are in giants, maybe this is a kind of matchup that will be favourable for Brentford. Brentford have won 3 and drawn 2. In theory, this game is theirs to lose. But Bournemouth have just beaten City. I would beg to differ. I would say Bournemouth are the favourites for this fixture. Only 2 points separate them at the table, and I believe they have fewer injuries. Bournemouth only have Sinistera, Kepa, Ouattara, and Scott out. Brentford have Hickey, Gomez, Rodriguez, Da Silva, Heijer, and Henry out. Brentford have been awarded the second most penalties this season so far, which is just 2, so that's not saying a lot. But it means that they create enough trouble to create penalty opportunities. And if you believe that this is possible in this game, then you have to choose Mbeumo. You have to choose Mbeumo because he would be the one to convert the penalty. After Mbeumo, you should be choosing Wissa and then a random defender, maybe Pinnock. I just say that because one of their defenders tends to score, and it's never the same one. It's not like Man City Vardio. It's just, today it's Pinnock, tomorrow it's Collins, then it's Roslev. You know? For Bournemouth, it's easy. I would say Semenyo, Evan Olsen, and a defender like Kirkes. Crystal Palace versus Fulham. In their last 5 encounters, there have been 4 draws and 1 victory to Fulham. That means this fixture tends to be tight or close. Now, it seems like for Crystal Palace, it is their defenders who are scoring. Chalobah scored and Guehi. And remember the last time out, I was joking about Guehi scoring again, and yet he did. So, I'm going to be even bolder. I'm going to say Guehi, Mateta, Eze is possibly out. So I'd say Chalobah. So, for Fulham, Lukic is out, Vinicius is still out. Wharton, Reed, Richards, Eze, Lerma, Franca are all out for Crystal Palace. Now, if Eze is out, I really do not know how this team is going to attack. Maybe they'll uncover something without an over-reliance on him. Or maybe this is a match for Nketiah. It will be an interesting game to observe, because Eze will be out until late November with a hamstring injury. So this gives an opportunity for Crystal Palace to change what they have been doing. If they're unable to fix this by the end of this month, this guy will be gone. He will be gone faster than Lopetegui for West Ham. If you're taking a Fulham player, I would suggest Robinson. This is also a good game to have a defender. Maybe if you have Leno already, keep him. And your pick of striker, maybe you want Al Jimenez, although he's been a bit quiet of late. Maybe you want Harry Wilson, or Iwobi, or Emil Smith-Rowe. They really have options. Oh, Pereira. This is actually really tough. If I'm honest, I would really just bank on the defenders. Watch out for Sarr. He may be somebody who will do something for Crystal Palace now that Eze is out of the picture. And of course, you can't rule out Adama Traore destroying people with his pace. I mean, I've actually named like 6 players from Fulham. It's that hard to choose. West Ham versus Everton. If you told me Everton will win this game 3-0, I wouldn't be surprised. If you also told me West Ham will win 3-0, I wouldn't be surprised. That's just where these two teams are. So unpredictable, which means there's opportunity for everybody. Their most recent 5 fixtures has West Ham winning 3 and Everton winning 2. Now, I am not convinced by Lopetegui. I've been saying that from the beginning, and I am yet to change my mind or to see something that convinces me otherwise. I would not bank on a West Ham clean sheet. Kudus is still suspended. Alvarez is also suspended. Fulkrug is still out. Broja, Ghana, Erbulam and Chermiti are out for Everton. So basically, West Ham are depleted. They were hammered last time out by Nottingham Forest, although 2 of the goals came after the red card. I honestly wouldn't be choosing a West Ham player, but also if you had to choose a West Ham player, this is the time. And only you really have Bowen, Somerville, Paqueta at this point. Everton, on the other hand, I would say Ndiaye, McNeil, and Mikolenko. Because the way this fixture is, it could also end 0-0, and you could get a clean sheet. I am beginning to believe that this may be the game Branthwaite comes back. He might be done. Everton were beaten last time out by Southampton, and they will be looking to do better. Wolves versus Southampton. I'm not going to look at the head-to-head as it is not relevant to this game. I'll just say Wolves are on the mend. They've drawn their last 2 games. They are competing against a direct rival, so this game matters. They need to defeat Southampton. Strand Larsen, Cunha, Ait Nouri are the 3 best players right now in Wolves. Southampton will also look at Wolves as a team they can beat, mainly because they're at the same position. In fact, they're on top of them. And Armstrong or Archer would be the most likely person to score. Sugawara tends to have an assist, and if you have Howard Bellis or somebody like that at your back, you might gain a lucky point. Brighton versus Manchester City. Before this game, I would have told you easy peasy Man City. But Manchester City have been scraping by in the Premier League. They lost to Bournemouth 2-1. They beat Southampton 1-0. They beat Wolves 2-1. They beat Fulham 3-2, and if you remember, that was quite tight. They drew with Newcastle 1-1. They drew with Man City, with Arsenal 2-2. They beat Brentford 2-1. Each game has been tight. Brighton have been good so far. Both teams lost. The exact scoreline 2-1. Brighton to Liverpool, Man City to Bournemouth. Both teams will be looking to recover. I wouldn't recommend a defender from either side. Well, if you're Man City, I would recommend Vardio, of course, and then Haaland. And then your choice of a third player, be it Foden or Salvinho. But also, it really depends on how Champions League goes and if they're able to come through without any major injury. As it stands right now, Grealish, Stones, Bob, Rodri and Diaz are unavailable. By the weekend, it could be more or it could be less. On the Brighton side, Webster, Milner, João Pedro, Dunk, O'Reilly, March, Mente, Ayari are unavailable. Clearly, Brighton are hurting more, but Brighton will be fresher. If to create any trouble, you know it's going to come from Welbeck, Jorginho, and Mitoma. Kadioglu scored, so it wouldn't hurt to put him. He may be beginning his form. And Man City don't play great defense anymore. Head-to-head obviously favours City, so I'm not even going to bother with that. Haaland maximalists will just be hoping that he will come good and he will score. When I look at the previous fixtures, Foden is a top scorer in this fixture, followed by Haaland. So maybe Foden, Haaland, and Vardio. The marquee match for Saturday will be Liverpool versus Aston Villa. Both of these teams will be playing in Europe, in the Champions League. Aston Villa have been amazing so far in the Champions League, and Liverpool have been great as well. So I would make my team based on how they come out of these fixtures that they will play. Their most recent fixtures have Liverpool winning 3 times and drawing twice. If you are choosing Liverpool players, I would recommend Salah, Gakpo, and Nunez. If you are choosing Aston Villa players, I would suggest possibly Watkins, Morgan Rogers, and Tielemans. This is a game that has no clean sheet in the last 6 matches, and I don't believe that will start now. Konate went off in the last game with a wrist injury, but it wasn't bad, so he's most likely to play again. Elliott is out, Chiesa is out, Jota is out, Becca is out. Cash is injured, Barkley is injured, and Morgan Rogers is doubtful. So if you're choosing Rogers and you don't have him already, wait at least until the press conference on Friday, when you will be told his true availability. We will have Manchester United versus Leicester next. We won't look at previous head-to-heads because it's not relevant. Manchester United are under interim manager, Mr. Ruud van Nistelrooy. He beat this team already 5-2 in the League Cup that they played last week. Casemiro, Garnacho, and Fernandes were the best players in that game, and those are the 3 players I'll recommend from Manchester United, possibly also Haaland. Now, from Leicester, I know they will play a different side from the one that played in the Cup. Would go for Ayew, Buonanotte, and Vardy. Both teams are coming off draws, and both teams will be looking to do more. Manchester United have been struggling to score, but they will be hoping to do more before Amorim comes. For Manchester United, Anthony, Eriksen, Maguire, Mainu are doubtful, while Euro, Shaw, Mount, Collier and Malaysia are unavailable. For Leicester, Chaudhry, Solaric and Patson Daka are injured. Both keepers have been informed this season, and they should be interesting people to look at. This game could also be a draw, but I believe Ruud will make people attack, and there's a goal in them. Nottingham Forest versus Newcastle. Newcastle have been in form over the last few games. They were really big and powerful against Arsenal in the last game, and they also beat Chelsea in the game before that. So they've had 2 difficult games and they've come out on top. Nottingham Forest are in great form. Head-to-head favours Newcastle, but form favours Forest. And if you're looking at a Forest player, you have to start with Chris Wood. 4 goals in 4 games, he has been in great form. Second only to Haaland. He should be your first person to choose if you're looking to get into this fixture. Him and then Isak. And then you go back and you say maybe Gordon, Morgan Gibbs-White / Hudson-Odoi, and then maybe on the other end, a defender from Newcastle. And then on this other end, possibly a defender from Nottingham Forest. Although Aina had 15 points last time out. He's a great shout. He scored a beautiful goal. Isak and Wood stand out players from this fixture. Tottenham versus Ipswich. I wouldn't blame you at all if you decided to bring in Solanke for this fixture, or Son, or Brian Johnson. Those are the three best players going forward. You could also add Kulusevski or Maddison. A combination, one of those five players is going to be the one that makes a difference in this game. I'm out on Pedro Porro, Udogie, and Romero. They're too expensive to be doing nothing. I would rather just get one of those 4.2 players in the back, and at least when they concede, you don't feel pain. From the Ipswich side, you have Delap, Omari Hutchinson, and maybe Smotsic. Calvin Phillips got a red card in the last game, and I believe they will be playing better without him. There's just something off with him. Ever since he left Leeds, he is not the same player. I think he works well and a very specific set of instructions, and he should follow Marcelo Bielsa wherever he goes. Tottenham can't keep a clean sheet, but they can score and they will come back. They will probably concede, but they are favoured to win this one. They are also unbeaten in 6 home games. Ipswich haven't kept a clean sheet in 6 games, so it's a good match. And also, on top of that, Ipswich haven't won a game this season. Southampton won before them. So there's that too. The last game of the day will see the match of the weekend, the marquee game. Chelsea versus Arsenal. Both teams have been in relatively good form. Well, Chelsea have been in better form than Arsenal. And by that I mean, compared to where Chelsea have been, Chelsea are playing better, but compared to where Arsenal have been, Arsenal are not playing too well. Recent head-to-head favours Arsenal, as you know how much of a mess Chelsea have been over the last few years. Chelsea are at home, and that should mean something. I believe they will be able to score. I believe if they are to get anything from this game, Palmer and Nicholas Jackson are their best bets. Neto could be somebody who provides something. On the Arsenal front, Havertz will score maybe against his old club. You have Saka, and I hear Odegaard will be back, and that might change a lot. So I'll just add him in there. Declan Rice was their best player last time out against Newcastle. So if you're looking for differential, it might just be him. Both defenses have been horrible, so I wouldn't recommend any defenders from them. Well, maybe except Gabriel, because he tends to score set pieces. Chelsea have considered the most penalties this season so far. And so if Saka and Martinelli keep running at these guys, there might be something there. Palmer was tackled badly by Lisandro Martinez. Because of that challenge, he is doubtful for the game. He will be a late confirmation. From the Arsenal side, Rice is doubtful, Tierney is out, Calafiori is out, and Tomiyasu is out. Having looked at the matches, the best captain choices would come from, let's say, the Tottenham-Ipswich game. If you have Son, if you have Solanke, if you have maybe Brennan Johnson, but him being the third option in terms of captaincy, those would be good captain choices. Wood and Isak have scored in at minimum of 3 games in a row, so they are great captain contenders. I would gamble on choosing Haaland or Garnacho as captain in the Man City versus and in the Manchester United versus Leicester game. Liverpool versus Aston Villa, I would definitely choose Salah. He has been in great form. Strand Larsen or Cunha versus Southampton is not a bad shout. Man City, Foden or Haaland, in that order. Fulham Crystal Palace, if you're really brave, Raul Jimenez isn't a bad bet. Elite took a gamble, didn't work out, but maybe this time, who knows? Bournemouth, Semenyo, Brentford, Mbeumo. When looking at the FDR, Arsenal play Chelsea, Forest, West Ham, Man United, and then Fulham. Their fixtures get progressively easier. West Ham will be the easiest of them, and possibly Fulham. Man United, it really depends on how their manager is, and you can never discount the new manager bounce. Aston Villa play Liverpool, Crystal Palace, Chelsea, Brentford and Southampton. That is a mixed bag. They have really two easy fixtures there in Crystal Palace and Southampton. So I would watch closely. I wouldn't jump into their assets. Bournemouth play Brentford, Brighton, Wolves, Spurs and Ipswich. This is when you get into Carcass and Semenyo. Brentford play Bournemouth, Everton, Leicester, Villa, Newcastle. For at least 3 fixtures, it's worth getting into their team. Wissa and possibly Bruno, in whichever order, should be fine. Brighton have Man City, and then they have Bournemouth, Southampton, Fulham, Leicester. After City, I will be looking into their players. Crystal Palace have Fulham, Villa, Newcastle, Ipswich, City. 3 of those 5 are not bad fixtures, but due to their form, 5 of those fixtures are bad. And without Eze, they might even be worse. I wouldn't be surprised if their manager is sacked within this run. Everton have West Ham, Brentford, Man United, Wolves and Liverpool. This isn't a bad time to get into their assets. Fulham have Crystal Palace, Wolves, Spurs, Brighton and Arsenal. So their fixtures get progressively difficult, but they're still not bad. I can see them getting surprise results here and there, just like they did against Brentford. Ipswich have Spurs, Man United, Forest, Palace, Bournemouth. Ipswich are yet to win, so these games are all difficult for them. They will be competitive, but that doesn't mean they will win. They are like a Leicester Luton. Leicester have Man United, Chelsea, Brentford, West Ham, Brighton. It's difficult. Their next 2 fixtures are difficult, and then they get slightly easier. Liverpool are about to start getting tested. They have Villa, then Southampton, which is another test, but then they'll have City, Newcastle after that. That's where the test will be. 3 out of their 5 fixtures will be difficult. And in between they have Southampton and Everton. Man City have Brighton, Spurs, Liverpool, Forest, Crystal Palace. Given their form, I could see them drawing all of these games or losing 2 out of the next 3. Man United have Leicester, Ipswich, Everton, Arsenal and Forest. They fired the manager at the right time, and this will give him a chance to gain some momentum. It's just a matter of seeing what his style is and who benefits from that. Newcastle have Forest, West Ham, Palace, Liverpool, Brentford. This is the right time to get into their team. Isak, Gordon, Livramento or Hall, this is when you get into them. Forest have Newcastle, Arsenal, Ipswich, City, Man United. Difficult fixtures. Let's see what they do. They're currently 3rd on the table. This will be something to really show us what they are made of. Southampton have Wolves, Liverpool, Brighton, Chelsea, Aston Villa. All the games are difficult. These games will be difficult. Spurs have Ipswich, Man City, Fulham, Bournemouth, Chelsea. 2 difficult games, 1 tricky game, 2 winnable games. West Ham have Everton, Newcastle, Arsenal, Leicester and Wolves. If he can survive the Arsenal game, he might save his job, but I really think he'll be the next guy to go. Wolves have Southampton, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham. They need to come out with at least 10 points from these fixtures in any shape, way or form. If they are unable to do that, the manager should be fired. And with that, you should have an idea of how to look towards the next few game weeks. Game week 10 was quite a challenging one, and we're hoping that this next one will be better. Remember that Champions League is upon us, Europe is upon us, so delay your team changing decisions until you know the availability of the players should they be featuring in Europe this week. Until then, have a great week. Bye-bye.